Tennessee, Mr. Green, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm still kind of stuck at this 100,000-foot view, and because I think if we get that wrong, everything else we do down below is a waste of time. Clausewitz, I don't know if you've studied much. I'm an ex-military guy, so a lot of us were taught about Clausewitz and his strategy, his appreciation of strategy. One of the things that he sort of came up with this concept of the center of gravity. And so if you were fighting a war, a military battle, you would look for what is the center of gravity, what is the one thing that if you turn that, you win the day, victories at the end. It might be the terrain, if you hold the terrain, or if it's the defeat of the military itself, or if it's controlling the cities. What is the center of gravity? Fighting in Afghanistan, I think our guys got it right in the beginning, finding the centers of gravity of the warlords, et cetera, and taking control of the terrain. People, hearts and minds as a center of gravity. The government as a center of gravity. Now we're trying to win the peace as opposed to win the war. And my question to you is what is that center of gravity? What is that one thing we've got to get? People's hearts and minds, values, systems, ideology. What is it we've got to flip in order to be successful there?
Boy, that's a very good question, Congressman, and I'll try to take a stab at it. And this comes out of our lessons learned report on stabilization, which is that period between our military coming in and clearing out the bad guys. We reinsert the Afghan government with certain development programs to try to win the residents over. That's that period, stabilization period, to summarize it. We need to have a government that the Afghan people trust and believe in, and it offers a modicum of services that those people want. Because the difficulty we have is that, for example, Afghan people want a little bit of justice. They don't want to have to pay a bribe to get it. What we gave them were a bunch of courthouses that looked nice. They would fit in any American city. But that's not what the Afghan people wanted. They wanted a modicum of justice that they didn't have to pay a bribe. So I would go back, if we're going to win over there, it goes back to winning the hearts and minds, but it's not going to be a U.S. soldier winning the hearts and minds. We got to have a government that is trusted and believed and supported by the average Afghan. And the majority of the Afghans don't live in the cities. They live out in the hinterland. And out in the hinterland, it's bandit country.
You kind of, you talk about corruption and all those things as we gave them a courthouse, but we didn't give them the system that worked.
We didn't give them justice. That's what we didn't give.
Right. And so what's the barrier to keep, I mean, okay, we built the building and thought we did a great job, but what has to get fixed for them to get that justice? Is there some ideology? I mean, what pushes corruption in that space or in that place? I mean, corruption comes from an ideology. Corruption comes from value systems. Is there something there that we can flip, that we can turn, that we can change, that will be successful?
I don't believe, and I know what you're reaching for. I can't give you a silver bullet. I really don't know. I'll think about it, and I'm happy to come back and talk to you more about it.
Let's get coffee or lunch.
Yeah,
if we don't fix that piece of it, we can layer everything about America over the top of it, and it'll never work. That's my concern.
And a number of people agree with you on that. And it isn't just cultural. I mean, I grew up fighting organized crime with the Department of Justice, and they had a different morality, the Mafia and La Cosa Nostra did. But it was a subgroup of the broader U.S. culture. But there, corruption is not just taking a bribe, it's endemic, it's tribal, it's part of that society, and it's extremely difficult to overcome. It's how the system works. In part, one of the findings we have of our Lessons Learned program is you really have to understand the Afghan people, their way of life, their culture, and all of that before you go in. And I don't think we really did. We didn't appreciate that. And so we contributed to the problem by just pouring a lot of money too fast around there. But I don't have an answer, and I'll be honest with you. I'd love to sit down and chat with you, and I'll bring some smart people a lot smarter than me. You know, I just have the big mouth. I don't have the brain, so.
I doubt that. Thank you.
Gentleman yields back.